Thank you, Senator. Before I call on the next senator who wishes to ask questions, I want to announce that we have the following individuals available as resource witnesses: Ellen Cooper with the Department of State Health Services, Mary Robinson with the Texas Medical Board, and Dr. Marcia Becker with Department of State Health Services, all available to the committee as resource witnesses. Senator West, I believe you were next.
Just a couple of questions, Senator.
Yes, sir.
This deals specifically with Section 2 of the bill, and I don't know whether that would be more in your province of that of Senator Dewey. And it deals specifically with the mileage,
yes, sir,
and also the physician requirement. What is the how did we come up with 30 miles as the determinative as relates to being able to comply with that section?
Senator West, excuse me, would you mind pulling your microphone down a little bit? Thank you. Go ahead, Senator Hegar.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I appreciate asking that. That is one standard that many other states have used. That's something, if I recall, 12 different states have used the 30-mile or 30-minute travel time threshold. And that is one that if we look at Texas, every clinic that is in Texas is within 30-mile range of a hospital, as well as
of the current clinics.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Yes, sir. And is within 30 miles of a secular hospital here in the state of Texas.
In terms of what other states similar to the state of Texas have the 30-mile requirement?
I was trying to remember offhand. I'll try to pull those up real quick for you, those states, Senator. I have them in my notes real quick. Oh, those have been, say, for example, Missouri, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Mississippi, and then there's a few others, and I think I can find them.
Of those states, which ones of those are similar to the state of Texas? And in determining which ones are similar, what do you use to determine the similarity? What factors?
Well, I don't know if I would ever actually say that every one of the 50. I would not go to say any of the 50 states. I've never been of the belief when we try to compare Texas to other states. I never liked that comparison.
Well, you just said that.
Well, my point is exactly like, similar to. My point was there are other states that have done this, that have used the 30-mile threshold, but I'm not trying to. What I'm saying is other states have used the 30-mile threshold.
But
I'm not saying that those states are identical to the state of Texas. In looking at what other states have done, and then also looking at if you overlay it onto the state of Texas, and realizing that half of the abortion doctors in Texas, at least half, have admitting privileges today, that admitting privileges is a reference of peer review capability.
But let me go, before you get there, let's go back to the 30 miles.
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're saying that the sole basis for choosing the 30 miles is because of some other states?
Not the sole basis, no, sir.
So what's the basis for choosing 30 miles?
The main basis is that it shows that doctors that are working in clinics, abortion clinics, that number one, they have the capability of having admitting privileges into hospitals, that if they do not have admitting privileges into hospitals, then that gives an indication of whether if a hospital would not allow them to have admitting privileges, to whether they would be able to have the competence of their peers, the competence of hospitals, and that many of the fact is in clinics there's always, unfortunately, potential complications and life-threatening complications. And in looking at the 30-mile radius, one, it's a travel time distance. I believe Senator Garcia, if I remember, she'd asked me a significant number of questions during the debate on Senate Bill 5 on the floor as to travel time from somebody from Laredo, if I remember correctly. We had a lot of discussion about that, and her questions was the rule travel time. Yet I still firmly believe the 30-mile, because the vast majority of women, individuals that have an abortion are within your major metropolitan communities. And having that opportunity, it is a reasonable standard, I believe, one that reflects whether these doctors are capable of having admitted privileges into hospitals. And if you take the case there in Houston, unfortunately the tragedy with the doctor here recently, he did not have admitting privileges, and the atrocities of what he was performing was very gruesome.
Right,
and
so
not having that admitting privileges.
You're going to give me a narrative
Yes.
response to that first prong of my question,
Yes.
because I have several others. Okay,
Please.
so the 30 miles is as a result of admitting privileges, and there's been a comprehensive, you've done an analysis of those doctors that perform abortions, and normally most of them have admitting privileges within 30 miles, in hospitals within 30 miles of the abortion clinic.
A majority do.
A majority do.
Currently.
Okay, was there any other factor taken into consideration?
There are several factors, like I said, looking at what other states have done, looking at the fact that doctors, most of them, the majority, have admitting privileges today, that it is an indication of whether those doctors are accepted within the communities, within the hospitals.
So acceptability of the physician within the community or the profession is the key factor.
No, not the key factor, a factor.
What is the key factor then?
Well, I don't think I think it's accumulation of all these factors, Senator.
Well, the only thing I've heard is and maybe I didn't hear it
Yeah,
right,
that's
because
fine.
I'm just getting off an airplane. All right.
Yeah, I just got off one last night, so I understand.
You understand.
I rolled in at
I
midnight.
had to
so I
travel 10
understand.
hours to get here.
I understand.
All right.
I want to remind everyone that we're going to start taking that public testimony at 11 o'clock.
And so from that vantage point, I guess whether senators are finished talking or not, asking questions, we're going to take them up at 11. What are the other factors that have been taken into consideration? That's what I'm asking.
For that portion of the bill,
Yes.
or for all portions
For
of the
this
bill?
portion of the bill.
Okay. Again, those factors and the fact that all the clinics are within the 30-mile radius, they're actually within half of that radius, that this is not an undue burden that is placed on doctors. They can readily go have that admitting privilege, and the fact that it shows that these doctors, by having admitting privileges, and if you look at ASCs today, ASCs, doctors there have admitting privileges or they have transferring privileges. And the reason being is because if there's complications, unfortunately, of an abortion, that they would have somewhere to go.
Has this
They
been a
would have
problem?
a hospital to go to.
Has this been a problem in the past?
I believe that there have been problems
In
in the
Texas?
past. Yes, sir.
Documented
Yes,
problems?
sir. Yes, sir.
Do you have any specifics on that?
We can have the Health and Human Service Commission testify. I mean,
Maybe.
there have been, I don't recall the exact statistics off the top of my head, but there have been situations in Texas to where, and throughout the nation, and I think the fact is that we need to make sure that we have the quality of care to the highest standard possible, Senator, to make sure that no one is going to have a death, nor is there going to be any complications, and this is not putting an undue burden.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly, okay? But here's the deal.
Yes,
There's other areas other than the area of abortions where we should have the highest standards,
I agree with that.
that we don't have the highest standards, quote unquote. And for some reason, it looks like this is just a political football between Democrats and Republicans on this issue,
Yes.
unfortunately. And we're not looking at women's health issues the way women want us to look at it.
Yes.
And so when we look at a 30-mile radius, the only thing I've really heard is that there are centers within it. The reason that we have the rational basis of the state to put this in there, your rational basis, is because other states have done it. And there are physicians that normally have admitting privileges within 30 miles. That's what I've heard. And then there may have been something else that you said that I just didn't hear.
And I appreciate what you just said, Senator. I do think that, yes, you are correct. There are other areas that we should potentially look at to whether they should be held to the ASC standard as well.
Let me go on, because I know there's others that probably have questions about this. As relates to if a physician is held to have violated this section, they are based on the current bill, it's a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by a fine not to exceed $4,000. Do you believe that by placing this section in this bill that it will have a chilling effect on physicians in the state of Texas to perform abortions?
No, I do not.
do you believe that it's going to have a significant impact, negative impact, on women's health issues in the state of Texas?
No, I believe this bill is going to raise the standards.
And do you think that as a result of this bill alone, that it will raise the standards in terms of women's health care issues? Is that what you're saying?
That this bill alone?
Yeah.
I think the parts of this bill will raise standards. Yes, sir, I do believe that.
And what standards do you think they're going to raise, other than the requirements of a physician to perform an abortion and the location where abortions can in fact be performed?
The fact that it's going to increase facilities up to the ambulatory surgical center standard. It's also going to require in the usage of RU 486 that those types of medical abortions, like surgical, are going to be at a clinic in the presence of a doctor, just adhering to the FDA label. And so I think several different those are the major aspects of this bill that are going to increase that standard of care.
If indeed a physician violates this section, could their license be in jeopardy?
Anything that a doctor does that's in violation of current law can put them in jeopardy, but the aspects of this bill would make them a misdemeanor, as you said, and not necessarily, this bill does not impose a felony nor an automatic repeal of their license. It is a misdemeanor.
You would agree with me then this has the potential of having a chilling effect on physicians?
That I would disagree with, Senator.
Let me ask this then. Would you agree then that if indeed this becomes law, that a hospital, if a physician does not already have privileges,
yes,
and that he or she goes to give privileges, and assuming that the person meets all other criteria, eligibility criteria, and they're rejected, that the hospital should be held accountable for that denial of privileges?
That the hospital
if a hospital discriminates on someone because they perform abortions, do you think that hospital should be held accountable?
I don't think that a hospital should be held accountable because of who they decide to have admitted.
What I'm saying is, everything else being equal, all of the other criteria that the hospital lays forth, that person meets, save and except that they perform abortions. If a hospital discriminates against someone based on in terms of granting admitting privileges, should that hospital be held accountable?
I don't think this bill is requiring in any form or fashion that a hospital is held to a different standard than what it is today for admitting privileges.
So a hospital can in fact deny admitting privileges. Assuming everything else, the person meets all the other criteria, a hospital can deny admitting privileges.
They can.
Someone, let me finish.
Okay, I'm sorry.
If the person meets all other criteria, and the only thing they are trying to do is comply with this particular bill, physician trying to comply with this bill, and they go to a hospital within 38 miles to seek those privileges, and the hospital denies those privileges, what is their recourse to that?
Their recourse would be the same as under the current law. They're either
Which is
going to appeal. They're either going to appeal to that hospital board and take it up with them, which, far as how the admitting privileges work, that is up to that hospital. Yet hospitals don't routinely discriminate, to use your words, based on one type of practice or another. These doctors are getting privileges based on the fact that they are obese, and they're not really seeking privileges specifically to perform an abortion at a hospital.
Well, I understand that, but that's if there's a subterfuge, if you will, and they believe it's as a result of them performing abortions, you're saying that their only rights would be to appeal to the board.
Well, and that's the reason.
And assuming that the board still upholds the decision, then they have no further rights after that.
Well, I'm not an expert on whether there's a further cause of action today. You might know that as a lawyer, but the fact is I do not believe it's going to have a chilling effect because there's a significant number of hospitals that are within that 30-mile range.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.